pick her up unless she's joining, maybe using another gadget. I tried to locate her there, but you'll indicate. But just to make sure that our meeting runs smoothly, it's just to remind ourselves that let's keep our mics on the mute mode unless you are the speaker at the time, just to avoid background noise that continue to interfere with the meeting, as well as ensuring that your camera is also switched off if you are not the speaker at the time. We are avoiding, Minister, some pictures that were circulating, that others, when they get tired, they also change the attire for the meeting, and it gets to be the one that circulates out there, whether they are support staff or members. So just want to be sure that the meeting runs smoothly. The rules of the National Assembly, as we know, do apply to all the committees of the National Assembly. For better running of the meeting, please let's ensure that we speak through the chair, meaning that permission would have been granted by the chair for you to speak, just to avoid having a meeting that's not manageable. With those opening remarks, it's just to guide the process in relation to the presentation, Minister. We make a reasonable assumption that because members would have received the presentation on time, they themselves would have gone through the presentation. Secondly, that the APP and the strategic plans were presented at the time we considered the budget vote. The purpose of this meeting is to focus on the adjustment areas and how they impact on the programs that have been agreed upon, whether it is an upward or downward adjustment. But of course, in this case, we're talking about an upward adjustment, which is good. But we are really pleading with yourselves that we would not be able to take the presentation on a point by point. Please focus on the areas you would want to highlight as it relates to the adjustment that have been affected by the supplementary budget that has just been also passed. So that's basically how we will run. I would give at least maximum 20 minutes, which will include your introduction, just the overview that you usually do as the leader in the department politically. And then you'll indicate how the presentation would unfold from the department side. Immediately after that, we'll then allow members to engage the presentation. With that, thanks, and I will not waste time, Minister, and welcome you to address the committee.
Thank you very much, Chair Maneli, and also other members, honorable members. We are quite grateful to come and account to you, specifically, as you have rightly pointed out, Chair, on the adjusted amounts that we have received. As you have said, when we were hit by the pandemic, we wrote to Treasury, because our role and mandate is to speak for the whole of government. Therefore, we needed to keep South Africans informed, either through community radio or through radio, other independent radio stations, or through television of this pandemic. We needed to impart awareness, we needed to impart education to the broader South African society. Therefore, what we had in our budget had not planned for this pandemic. We therefore requested financial assistance from Treasury. Fortunately, we were assisted with 60 million. As you have requested, Chair, I will therefore request the DG together with the acting DDG to speak on the 60 million. What it is that we have done with the 60 million, what programs have we put in place to create awareness, and also either in the advert space or in the other areas that created awareness for the South African public. Without any further ado, I'll ask DG Pumna Williams to then speak to the slides together with DDG Kusela Diko. But in particular, let's focus, as the chair has requested us, on the 60 million that were given for the purpose of the pandemic. Thank you very much, Chair.
I'm going to propose that.
Thank you, Minister. DG.
Thank you very much. Good evening to the honorable members. And I think, like the minister has correctly pointed out, that our presentation is going to try and focus on the 60 million, but just as a way of creating the background to the budget is that the budget of GCIS as it stands now, it's about 720, and goes and there's HR and also a breakdown, as we indicated in the slide. So I'm not going to go through all of it. However, what we want to indicate is that when the President announced the state of disaster, one of the things that was pointed out was that GCIS needs to lead the communication and, importantly, canvass more resources. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear.
Continue.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, what we then requested, we did a whole communication strategy around that whole the COVID-19 communication program, and a communication strategy was put in place, and it was then costed, and we made a submission to the National Treasury, which led to the 60 million that was provided to us. The next presentation will talk to, because we have used that amount of money from as early as April. So Ms. Diko is going to be talking to how we have been used. But we then thought that we should use the opportunity to also state that this 60 million, we have tried almost all of it to use it align to the National Treasury instruction note on how to spend the money as it relates to the COVID-19. So we thought we need to also emphasize and point out also the fact that when the decision was taken, we already had a panel of advertising agencies which we had appointed through an open tender process. So we'd like to assure you that when the decision was taken, that we have appointed to help us to drive this campaign, we've procured them through the panel of an open tender. And lastly, we'd also like to emphasize that we are aligned to the National Treasury on how we should tag the expenditure around the COVID-19 to make it easier for audit purposes. That we also would like to confirm that that's what we have done. And at this point, I'd like to hand over to Kusela to just how the 60 million to date and what we are still to do in that budget going forward. So over to you, Kusela, around the COVID-19 to make
thank you very much, DG, Minister. Good evening, Chairperson, honorable members. Chairperson, we had submitted our presentation. I'm not sure if it's going to be beamed as we speak or if we should share it. I'd like guidance, please, Chairperson, on that.
The budget going forward. So over to you,
what is the arrangement? Are you sharing it or is it shared from the ministry side?
It's shared from the ministry side, Chair.
Okay.
I'd like guidance, please.
Maybe go.
The budget going forward.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have now shared the document. I'm not sure if members are able to see. If I could please just get confirmation.
I can see it from my side. I'm sure members
we
do.
can see it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. So the first part of the presentation, which covers the original appropriated budget, what we did when COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, and the communication focus has already been covered by the DG, as well as I think all the way up to the procurement process. So I'll skip straight to unpacking what we then did with the monies that were allocated to us. What we did when COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, and the communication focus has already been covered. 16 million was obviously utilized as part of the national campaign around skip straight we had one goal, which was to ensure that we're able to inform and empower citizens in playing their part to protect themselves and others against coronavirus. I won't read word for word, as the chair has said, members would have probably interacted with the report already. Just to say that our communication has both been proactive, arming citizens with information, but also reactive. So we're constantly scanning the communication environment and responding to issues as they arise. As we moved to level 3, we took a particular focus and emphasized this new phase in the struggle against COVID-19, we call it, which was about focusing on individual behavior, empowering citizens for collective action to be able to keep themselves and their families safe. We've also, as the GCIS, had to deal with the issue of a safe return to work and study. Government has put a lot into economic and social relief measures, and we needed to ensure that the people of South Africa are aware how to access those. There was a lot of work we've also done around the surge of infections and the extent to which our health systems are prepared for them, but also citizens are able to know how they can assist in the process, including sharing information on who must test and so forth, so that we don't overpower that system. And then obviously moving forward, then looking at social economic recovery. Our communication is led by the minister with GCIS as the lead department, and we have various structures which coordinate both provincial and local government, as well as national government departments as a whole. The words that have come from the president have been instructive in terms of our approach to communication, especially when he said that where we are now in the stage of the pandemic calls for vigilance, responsibility, and discipline. But he also called upon government to be transparent, to take the nation into confidence, and to do so regularly. So this has been the underlying principle according to which we have done our work. Members, the 60 million that has now been appropriated to the GCIS through the special appropriations has covered all the levels of communication. In the first part, we sought to reprioritize within the GCIS what we could at that point when the disaster was declared. And obviously, that reprioritization has now been corrected with the adjustment budget. But in level 4 and 5, we concentrated on messaging around people playing their part. What we are now in level 3, I think we all anticipated it. We called it the crisis phase. Our messaging around there is about together beating the coronavirus and ensuring that there's full transparency, clear flow of information, statistics, and then obviously prominence of our frontline heroes and what they're doing in the response. We anticipate that beyond the peak, as it is called, we will then have to embark on a campaign which looks at recovery, rallying society around rebuilding for the future.
Please excuse me, Ma'am Diko. Chairperson, with your indulgence, may I speak?
Yes, Honourable Mackenzie.
Thank you, Chair. Just two things. There's a noise in the background, like someone's playing Candy Crush. So whoever's playing a game, if they could just mute their mic while they're playing, I think that would remove that distraction. And then secondly, I'm not sure if the presentation has started and we're moving through the slides, because I can only see an introductory slide. Is that where we're supposed to be? If you could just confirm that. Thanks for the indulgence, Chairperson. Much appreciated.
Okay, thanks, Honourable Mackenzie, for taking the responsibility again of reminding our guests and members to mute their mics, and only the ones who are speaking would have their mics on. The slides have been addressed now. Thank you. You can proceed, Mediko. Stigo, you can continue. Unmute your mic so that we can hear you.
My apologies, Chair. Okay, I'm on the slide then with the table. Let me apologize, Chair. I suspect the sound that Honorable Mackenzie is hearing is from my machine with notifications, and I have no idea how to switch it off. I think every time a notification comes on, there's that pinging sound. So I really do apologize for that.
Chairperson, that sound usually comes from when you have WhatsApp open on your desktop. So if you do have it open, just close it. I usually get that sound from WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Notifications comes from there.
Yes.
Yes.
That's where notifications come from.
Stigo,
You must tell your
Yeah,
WhatsApp
Mr.
group you're busy right now.
no, Honorable Fundam.
Thank you, Chair.
Let's allow Stigo to continue. She indicated that she's still struggling to get that off. Continue, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm on the slide then that speaks to how we have transitioned our communication. It's labeled Campaign Identity Transition to LED Level 3, where we moved the messaging from stay home to stay safe as the economy was being reopened. And we were signaling a shift from an enforcement approach, which was the stay home messaging, to the voluntary compliance that as South Africans go out, they should take responsibility for keeping safe. And that was our messaging framework. So speaking to the public health messages, the coronavirus prevention toolbox, what it is that people need to do to keep themselves safe, that is what is in the toolbox, with the washing of hands, the cough etiquette, and so forth. We've also done a lot of work.
Sorry, Ms. Diko. Through your chair, if Diko, you can move your slides, because we are speaking, but your slides are far behind. Thank you very much.
Chair, I have moved them. Can I perhaps request, I don't know if we can get assistance in sharing, but I have moved them. Minister, my slide in front of me reflects now content and messaging framework. I'm not sure if that's the one that the minister and members are seeing now.
The slide in front of me is your face.
At this point, there are no slides shared, so it's you and the minister.
Okay, no, I think there's a problem. I really think I'm struggling with 4IR today.
Yes, content and messaging framework, that's where we are now.
Thank you very much, Minister. And this slide then, not to speak to a lot of detail on it, but just to say that these are the 4 areas of our messaging. The slide is on the budget. I think that members have seen it already. It just speaks to how we broke up the budget that had been allocated, with 50,100,000 being allocated to media space, both electronic and print. Electronic obviously covering radio, television, social media, and digital media. Print and print productions, we're looking at 3.9 million. And then our advertising agencies that the DG spoke to, which are cut to black as well as Molly Biz, we allocated 6 million to them. In terms of the update, in terms of how those funds are being utilized, we had that first phase, which was April to May 2020. As I indicated, that we'd initially funded this through an adjustment taking from current programs, which we have now rectified. We ran radio over 35 stations, all the African language stations and public broadcast stations in the SABC bouquet. We had the 11 official languages plus the language of the Khoi and the San. We did all the English commercial radio stations. We did 60 community radio stations across the country. Our intention was to ensure that we have maximum visibility on all platforms. Hence, we did not seek to discriminate on where we placed media, but went for ensuring that we get as many people as possible across the channels. We are struggling with community media because, as will know there's a lot more than 60 community radio stations across the country. However, because we are bound by Treasury regulations which require that we only contract with those service providers, if you will, who are compliant on the central supplier database, we can only then bring those on board. The MDDA has stepped in to assist us, also through media buying through some of the stations where they are not compliant. But this is a moving target and something that we're working very hard with the MDDA and the community radio stations to address. We then also went on television, all the SABC stations, the terrestrial stations, as well as SABC 404, ENCA, ETV, Community TV. We also had spots on major shows like Skimsa, Muvhango, and all of that. We had leaflets that were distributed. This was in the first phase of the campaign. I think that there had been differing views on whether we should be doing this. I think it was raised in the last portfolio committee as well. We do want to highlight to members that we received a lot of added value from radio stations running public service announcements that we didn't need to pay for. We got Business for South Africa, which also amplified a lot of the messaging that we did, where private companies would take the stay home message, add it to their own campaigns, and obviously giving it a lot of reach. We had roadside screens that we got for free as added value for a period of 2 weeks, and other significant discounts. Just the SABC at the beginning of the campaign would give us a 100% discount, if you like, that if we placed one ad, we would get another one for free. And we had similar arrangements with a number of other media. The second phase, which started when alert level 3 came into effect on the 1st of June, again went on to radio. Now, what we've done here is that we've sought to make better use of the public service announcements instead of putting all of our money into radio. So as we run those PSAs, when we come to the end of what they've allocated to us as a PSA, then we run radio. On community media, we've sought to innovate there, and I think it was last week that we pioneered the first of what we called a presidential virtual imbizo, where we want to bring all community radio stations onto the platform where callers are able to call in and ask questions directly to the president or any other minister or any other stakeholder that we would want to host there. On television, we've done the squeezebacks and the number of fillers, and again, we're looking at posters and leaflets. Billboards, 90 billboards were approved in hotspot provinces. Those have all gone up. We got, again, additional value. We've translated our artwork into the 11 official languages, and we have a second burst of the billboards that is supposed to go through in other provinces that are not hotspots.
I am Lindy Wezulu, the Minister of Department of Social Development.
Without going into that, I think members would be able to go through just some of the creative that we've got. But these were examples of public service announcements that we did. The one with Pratim Modise and a number of other personalities was particularly successful. And the research that we've subsequently done has spoken to the fact that the stay home message in particular landed very well amongst audiences. These are just the breakdown of the figures across the radio stations. This is a breakdown of the public service announcements that we got from the television stations. This is just a campaign creative. Maybe if some members would not have seen it, it's very short.
Wash your hands with soap and water or sanitizer for at least 20 seconds. Working together, we can beat the coronavirus. A message from government.
Thank you. I will pass the other creative. I think members would be able to have a look at it at their own time. But we took literally what we had put on television and made it as part of this presentation with the squeeze back there in front. Just another visual representation of how we have utilized the funds. Those were the SANDF came to the party in a big way, where they also assisted us to get messages out, especially in the early parts of the campaign where everybody was on lockdown, and they were literally the only people with the police force and essential services that were on the ground. So that was quite a success. These are just some examples of the private sector partnerships that we've spoke about. I mean, these were ads from Dunlop and Food Lovers Market, but they carried the government messaging as part of their communication. I've indicated that the billboards have been put up. This is one in Barra in Gauteng. This is one in East London on Settlers Way. This is one in Leondale in Katlehong. The messaging on them is messaging that the power to defeat coronavirus is in your hands. Matla a go fenya mogare wa corona a mo diatleng tsa rona. So all the billboards have been translated into the languages based on location. In the hotspots, we have put out 69,600 posters, which basically just seek to, again, create awareness in those areas that this is a coronavirus hotspot, take extra care. This is one of the leaflets. The last issue that we want to speak to members is around the social media. On social media, we managed to negotiate significant ad credits or added value from Twitter, Facebook, as well as Google Ads. From Twitter alone, we received about 400,000 in ad credits that we then utilized to advertise messages coming from government. We've seen significant reach in these, including on the slide in front of you, 3.1 million screens. On Facebook, we got 340,000 in ad credits, and we had about 2.2 million screens that were reached there, and a significant growth of our websites. On the slide in front of you, you'll see that we not only then speaking about the coronavirus, but also what the president had said was the second pandemic, the silent pandemic, which is around gender-based violence. So we are picking up those themes and trying to bring them through in our messaging. Chair, my last slide refers to what we refer to as legacy projects that of the 60 million that we've utilized, we understand that obviously communication, as important as it is, could also be fleeting. So we looked at what we can do now, and excuse the spelling error there, I'm sorry, but what can we do as we support the coronavirus communications, ensure that there's things that the GCIS has beyond. So our radio studio, we are procuring the Centec line so that we no longer now have to pay a third party for us to reach community radio stations for a broadcast. So this is going to save us a significant amount of money because we can send the signal directly through to Centec to all community radio stations without having to procure a third party. We're also looking at how we can digitize Vukuzenzele. Research shows us that the lower as LSMs, while the radio medium is still the most effective, but there's a very high penetration of mobile as well. So we will be looking at that, and then also a live streaming capability for our radio studio. Research has come back. GCIS conducted a survey. In fact, we brought into an omnibus, and it's telling us that at least 93% of people have heard, seen, or read about COVID, and the primary mediums through which they got this information was on radio, on television, and the top two most recalled messages were the staying at home message as well as the wearing of the mask. But there are issues that are also being raised, that compliance remains a mixed picture, especially amongst the lower segments. Now, this is an issue that the minister has now directed that we focus on to ensure that in our townships, in our rural communities, as well as in informal settlement communities, we make a significant impact. It is said that not that people are not aware, but they are not complying. And we are now going to be working with, amongst others, the Solidarity Fund to look at the reasons why compliance is so weak and what we can do from a communication perspective. And yes, Minister, with your indulgence, I think that we can stop there insofar as the presentation that I was tasked to present. Thank you very much, Minister Chairperson.
Thank you.
Chair, if you don't mind, if we can just come in before the members come in.
Yes, Minister, if you can wrap up.
Just to also speak to what Acting DDG Kusela spoke to. Indeed, we're worried about that lowest LSM segment. And again, we are thinking allowed, and we would really appreciate any assistance from colleagues. One area of intervention that we are thinking of is basically unconventional communication, including the use of what you call loud hailers in our informal settlements, in our townships, in our rural areas. And we are aware that indeed a number of this, of course, we'll be doing this not alone, but working together with our district municipalities, with our local municipalities, with our local councillors, so that at least we get the message through loud hailing to the actual houses, to the actual shacks, and to almost everybody, and not rely solely on your radio and your television medium. So that is one area that we think we will also be using moving forward, particularly to the enhanced alert level 3, where we are saying we need a serious change in behavioral patterns amongst the populace. So whatever we can be assisted to do to effect behavioral change, that will go a long way in us combating the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, we also know that in some areas, there is now also use of drones for messaging purposes. That's also something that we are looking at, so that we also roll that out to all these areas that are mostly affected, your hotspots in particular. So I just wanted to say those things, but indeed we will also benefit from any advice. Like I have said before, Chair, this is a new phenomenon in the lives of South Africans, and we can benefit, all of us, by working together and advising one another on what are the best interventions under these circumstances we can engage in. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Minister and the team. I'm sure, honorable members, we have listened to the presentation, and you've also had an opportunity of going through the presentation. I will now check if there are members who would have raised their hands to speak on the system first. If I can just check that I don't leave anybody. I do see you, Honorable Van Dam. I'm just checking if I have left other members who would want to speak at this point.
Mackenzie, my hand is up, Chair.
Honorable Faku's hand is up. Honorable Kubeka, are you connected? Yes, I don't want to leave anybody now. Okay.
Yes, Chair.
Is Limpopo connected? Honorable Kubu, I just hear the background but not hear you. So, but in the meantime, I will take those that have raised their hands, starting with Honorable Faku, Honorable Van Dam, Honorable Mackenzie, Honorable Kubeka. As I say, I don't understand whether Honorable Kumbu wanted to speak or it's just the background. But will indicate. Can we start, Honorable Faku? Honorable Faku.
Thank you, Chair. Let us, greetings to yourself, Chair, greetings to honorable members, and greetings to the Minister and the team. Thank you for such a good presentation. I think, Minister, let us welcome the presentation and thank the work that you guys have been doing during these difficult times that our country is faced with. I think that you are trying the utmost best to bring all information to people, even young kids, they understand what needs to happen. But also I want to say I fully agree with you in terms of loud hailing, because As you know that our health system is currently overwhelmed by the pandemic, but I think it's important that the issue of loud hailing must be done in our communities, maybe involve public reps to assist. But I even hear that the GGG is raising the issue of community radios. I think we need to strengthen that, but also we want to welcome when President was speaking to our communities, you know, even our kids, sometimes they get so excited when President is going to speak. Even our communities, people are eager to listen what President is going to speak. And we are very happy as a country that you have been open, and as government, you are speaking in one voice. So that is something that is very good. And I think that it's important that that momentum must stay there. For me, I wish that you can get more budget so that what you have shown us in this past months, in the past 3 months, I don't know, as South Africans, I think we're very proud by the work that GCIS is doing. Like the pamphlets are very educational. But what I think that needs to be done really to strengthen community radios, so that we communicate more with our people, because if you see some of them, they don't adhere to the regulation. And what we must also promote languages like Xhosa, Zulu, all languages that we use in South Africa, so that people really understand. But for now, we want to thank you and GCIS for the good work that you have done thus far. Thanks.
Honorable Van Dam.
Thanks, Chair. I think if there's one department or entity where an increase of budget can be welcomed is this one, particularly at this time. We've always said that communication from government was of critical importance at this time, because if we are going to properly defeat COVID, there needs to be proper communication with the people in our country, and in particular, those that wouldn't ordinarily have access to information. So it's good to see that the money has been allocated, and we trust that it's being spent appropriately. It would be I'm very interested, and I don't know if you have the figures in front of you, in the breakdown in the spend. So how much is spent on rural areas versus urban areas, community media versus commercial media. So if you do, even if you don't have the specific figures, if you have kind of ballpark percentages, so it'll be very interesting to know. And as we saw again, that Media 24 has had to retrench a number of staff members, and I think as the committee, we must express that we are very concerned about this, because we all need to do as much as we can at this time to make sure that there are no job losses, but obviously understanding that we are in the midst of a global pandemic, and even before we were here, the media was in trouble. So I just wanted to know whether, since the last time we spoke, whether you've given any thought to how it is the media can be better supported. I'm not saying in the government giving, bailouts to media houses, but just in terms of thinking creatively, because I think if there's one thing that this time has shown us is the importance of thinking out of the box, and being able to move with the times, and for government policy making to be quick and be able to respond to challenges as they happen. So just those points, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Van Dam. Honorable McKenzie.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you, Minister, and thank you, Ms. Dicko, for the presentation. It was very informative. Just on slide 26, there was that rather magnificent billboard featuring the president outside the Barra taxi rank. And then the irony of having the people at the stalls, none of them wearing masks, none of them practicing social distancing. So we need to be very careful how we frame our pictures. Fortunately, that's just here in the committee. That's just a comment. There was no mention in your presentation of the website designers and website hosters being obliged to put that little COVID message on their websites. But every time I log on to my bank, I see it in black. It's very stark, and it's a very effective and constant reminder. And I would imagine that GCIS didn't pay for the privilege of that. It was more of an instruction or a request, if you can just confirm that. But it's very, very effective. Then I was rather concerned to build on what Honorable Farquhar was saying about the community broadcasters. If we can imagine how difficult it must be for, as Honorable Van Dam said, for media houses such as Media 24 that have considerable resources to draw on, our community broadcasters, who form a very, very important part of our three-tier broadcasting model, must be facing an incredible amount of stress and strain, trying to keep their operations alive. And I'm very disappointed if it is the case that GCIS is not directing spend towards community broadcasters, because it certainly is a way, Minister, I think that we can reach those lower LSMs, because those community broadcasters are smaller and they're very tightly focused in the communities they serve. So if I could just get some clarity on that, and perhaps a commitment from GCIS that you will direct some of your budget towards those broadcasters. Then just a small idea that you can use or not use. When the poorest of the poor who are being assisted with food parcels, for example, are given a standard food parcel, there's some oil in there, there's some iwiza in there, there's some tea in there. Is there any way we could speak to the manufacturers of these products and perhaps get them to put some messages on their products as they're printing their packaging? That's just an idea. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Mackenzie. Can I then take Honorable Kubeka?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Let me pass my greetings to the Chair, the Minister, honorable members, and the team that is with the Minister. Let me appreciate, and also this is the encouraging department, actually, when we are meeting with this department, at least we know that we will be well motivated. But this is the question here, Chair. Honorable Minister, are you done with the issue of that post of your driving department? Are you done now? It's no longer acting, or what is happening? Because I can hear today you are coming with another acting of DDG now. So let me say I can support the issue of saying let this department not have acting instead. It must have the members that will assist you, because they are driving indeed. So let's forget about the acting, finalize in order that this department must be nice, as it is doing nice things. Also on the issue of this 60 million, it's so unfortunate, as Honorable Van Dam say, this is the most important department that we can see that maybe this 60 million, we can see it as little as it is, as they are doing the exceptional well job. I'm happy when you are saying we must try to check also on the issue of this now, because it can shows you very well to say you are there on the ground. When we are talking about the informal settlement, which means you are there, no one you are leaving him or her behind. So we are fully supported that thing to say continue and try to assist and balance on the issue of the districts and our municipalities, in order that they can see how much are you doing as national. Back up those districts and municipalities in order that this message can be everywhere. we are supporting you 100% there. On the issue of the billboards, Minister, I can hear acting DDG is raising in Bara there, PE, Bolion Day. What about those deep provinces? Are you consider it also? Because billboards, I can say, it have an impact because every time ICE will be there in order that it can sensitize you to say, hey, kumbula, hlamba-ke lezo zandla ke. So I just want to understand because especially in those provinces where there are these hotspots, can you manage also there just to utilize this thing of your billboards? Thank you very much because I can hear the acting DDG also when she raised on the issue of the Twitter, Facebook. I think every morning I know I will just check even on the site of WhatsApp to say now what is the government saying to us with this pandemic. So we are fully supporting the department. Thank you very much. But also on the issue of the community radio station, Minister, I think there are those when we have raised to say they are having some critical challenges. Can the department also try to assist there in order that all these community radio stations can manage to be alive like other ones? So based on this little information that I'm presenting to you, thank you very much. We are supporting the department. We are encouraging to say it can, because you can recall when I was saying this department every time, even when coming to the site of the Auditor General, you are so cautious to attend whatever. Let it be even to other entities, just to see how best you are working with everything that you are having. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Kubeka. Minister and the team. Honorable Kumbo, now now I can hear you.
Yeah, Limpopo is connected. Thank you, Chairperson, and greetings to everybody. I also want to start by thanking the GCIS for the presentation. I just want to have an understanding of how you are going to distribute the 3 million leaflets, because the understanding is that they must reach each and every corner of the country, and also to check if they are enough to can cover the whole country. Otherwise, you are doing a sterling job, and we support you for that. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Kumbo. As I said, Minister, you and your team, you'd respond, and probably will then try to come back to a discussion. Am I leaving anyone now?
Yeah.
Or is it
Majosi?
Is it Honorable Majosi? I'm trying to see, but I don't see.
I can't even. Yeah, my problem has started again. So, yeah, we are having serious problems in Soweto. But nonetheless, Chairperson, no. Thank you for the presentation from GCIS. We appreciate the work that has been done, and I think I will agree with Honorable Van Dam that maybe this is the department that needs the budget adjustment in terms of the work that they do. Let's hope going forward, when they approve the adjusted budget, that it will serve the mandatory job that it's supposed to. And but nonetheless, that is what I wanted to say, Chairperson, that we support them, and we are fully behind them of the work that they do. Thanks.
Honorable Majosi, Minister and the team. But I think as you respond, there's one matter that has been left in the presentation. When you came before us, there was an issue in relation to SABC and an application that was made to SABC in terms of the relief. As you respond, if you can also cover that point. Thank you. Over to you, Minister.
Colleagues, thank you very much. Maybe, Chair, you will know that the responsibility of SAPC is in the team that will be coming after us.
Yes. But on this one, it was your presentation. That's why we remind you. Okay.
Yeah, because at the time I was in an acting capacity there. But the minister is now back. She's the minister responsible for the public broadcaster. And we know, of course, that they are in serious difficulties, but let's allow the ministers to speak to that issue. Of course, the only way all of us as government can assist SAPC or any other entities, and colleagues have also spoken to community radio as well, is when we advertise in these entities. We will be having some meeting with the minister where we will then say, how do we all work together to assist even the community radio stations and the public broadcaster as well, moving forward. I'm also responding to a question that was raised by Honorable Van Damme on how are we giving support to community media. Generally, from where we are seated, the only support we can give, and again, we are not speaking of out of the box, the only support we can give now within the architecture that we operate from and the legal instruments is through making sure that we do adverts. We provide advertising capital to the community radio stations. I think colleagues will speak to that as well, even on the 60 million. Yes, we can do more. Yes, we should do more. But you'll also know, colleagues, that through the entity MDDA, we have also directed a lot of financial injection to the community media space. I think even in the past few months, over 20 million. We know that it might not be that much, but when you speak of community media who also have difficulties, even keeping staff, paying staff, I know for a fact that MDDA has also now decided to basically take over the responsibility of some community media for paying their staff, for paying their rentals, etc. So if we can bring, maybe through you, Chair, if we can bring MDDA so that we delve deeper into how are we supporting community media outside of the adverts that we give to them through GCIS, but as government, how are we supporting that segment of our communication sector? I will end there and request colleagues to speak to the issues that have been raised. I'll come back later.
Thank you very much. I think we are going to, if you, Chairperson, can I just proceed? We have also Michael who's gonna also, okay, we also have Michael, but just before I hand over to Michael and Kusela, one of the things that I wanted to say with the additional budget, one of the good things that we have achieved is to find partners, because if you go and ask for partnership with nothing, it has been a biggest challenge we had. And then you will note in the presentation that Kusela was making 560 million that National Treasury has given, because it has been easier for us to look for partnership to maximize whatever that we are doing. In terms of the community media, I think the minister is spot on. We remain extremely committed to using community media, because I think our view is that for us to get the lower LSM, we have to also invest in community media. What I would want to assure you is that even the GCIS using the community media, but in our core teams at district levels, at mayoral levels, at provincial level, we encourage them to utilize these platforms. So it's not only GCIS, the provincial governments are investing a lot of money on community media that are on the ground. They are also using these community platforms. So I think at the end of the day, we are all investing on using them as platforms. Lastly, the issue that I wanted to comment on, the behavioral change, the recent research that we were doing as we were going through level 4 and 5, the research tells us saying young people are the ones who just find it extremely difficult to change their behavior. Our teams that are going on the ground, they are all telling us that they're finding it extremely difficult to convince young people, and the implications of that is that they end up infecting the old people who are responding to the message. So it's something as we go to level 3, I think with time permitting, maybe next time we come, we will be sharing it with you, because our next blitz of campaign, we want to target young people, because that's where we have found the discrepancy of changing their behavior. Yes, they are getting the message. All of them, they know the message, they know what they are expected to do, but it's a question of why they are not changing their behavior. Because at the end of the day, they infect their loved ones who are vulnerable to the pandemic as we have it now. So I think at this point, I don't know whether Michael and Kusela want to add something.
Thank you, DG. I'd like to add on the issue of, Honorable Pandam asked about the numbers. Unfortunately, we don't have the split for urban and rural. Our commitment to community media is no less than 20% of our budget is spent on community media. We have not at this point managed to reach that raised of compliance of the stations, but it is something that we are constantly working towards. I do apologize, I don't have that split at the moment. Honorable Mackenzie asked about the websites. The websites and the websites, there was directions that were issued by Minister Stella Bene-Abrahams, which obligated all websites in South Africa the SA coronavirus link in order to ensure that as many people as possible were aware of it and obviously had access to that critical information. This worked. We mentioned it for because of time, but I want to mention that part of the direction he had also issued spoke to the mobile operators, the mobile network operators, that they should at least give 2 SMSs per day free of charge that government can use for messaging. So that's also another medium that we are utilizing quite effectively. On the issue of the product packaging and placement, we are in discussions with the private sector through Business for South Africa, and we are looking at, amongst others, ensuring that things like the packages for bread and things like that do carry messages. It was done quite successfully in the first phase, but we would obviously look at extending it even beyond. The same with the question that Honorable Gambu had asked around the distribution of 3 million leaflets. Now, the retailers have committed that they would be able to take some of those leaflets from us, as we have done with the 69,600 posters that we have sent. And we'll also be sending them to the GCIS provincial offices, who then forward them to the relevant departments, but also use them in activations moving forward. Honorable Kubega had asked about the billboards and other provinces. We have covered to date all of the hotspot provinces. We are looking at obviously extending that, but it's a discussion that we've been having with the minister because our 60 million can only go so far. And what we have committed to date is already in the region of about 47 million. And we were saying, do we then plow the balance of that money perhaps into outdoor, or do we also find other innovative ways to make sure that we stretch it a lot further? Now, with the posters, which we're going to increase, and we want to put them on street poles and in all areas, we're thinking that where we may have gaps, we would be able to close those. But maybe, Chair, just to thank the members, we couldn't agree with them more that this is one department that really needs more budget to be able to carry out its functions. But thank all the members for their comments. I think Michael would want to add. Thank you so much.
Okay, Michael. Is it connected?
If he's not there, we can come in and conclude before other members come in.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. I'm here, Minister. Honorable Chair and the honorable members and my minister, hope you can hear me. Honorable Chair, I really do hope that I haven't missed anything. I don't know if it was generally or if my line in particular was bad, but it was very fragmented as I was hearing the discussion. So, Honorable Chair, if I've missed anything, please forgive me. I hope I'm audible to the honorable members. First and foremost, to thank you sincerely, honorable members, for the affirmation and for the words of support and encouragement. I want to hone in. Kusela has really touched on the broad macro areas of her work. I think there are two areas I want to hone in on. Honorable Faku raised a very good point, which the minister also picked up on, is that, you know, Honorable Faku, your point is so correct about the high degree of message coherence and the sense of patriotism and collaboration between partners and spheres of government. So I think the first thing to add is that we do have a lot of communication machinery in place, both at the horizontal level nationally, where we are meeting 3 times a week with all the heads of communication. We've developed a comprehensive communication grid for those colleagues. And what we do there, honorable members, is where we try and foster that coherence and where we leverage then more work. So when, for example, on 1 or 2 days, one specific ministry is doing work, everybody amplifies that work around them, both horizontally at national level, but then also vertically down to provincial structures. So secondly, we do have in place, and the Minister has met with the colleagues as well, and DG, even honourable members as late as this afternoon, DG was meeting with the 9 provincial directors of GCIS. We really are getting that sense that coherence of message, that coherence of the dissemination of content is getting to municipalities, to the provincial structures and to the district structures, which then obviously get to the question about rural-urban balance. We are in the rural areas. We do have that presence. I mean, for example, honourable members, at the moment, the poster dissemination that Kusela mentioned, we are going to rural areas, and hopefully my team has already reached the doors of constituency offices of members of parliament, where we'll help us disseminate some of those posters. And then secondly, Honourable Mackenzie, the point made by Honourable Member Faku about this coherence and this teamwork. Honourable Mackenzie, that's how we did get that degree of the icon being placed everywhere. I mean, Kusela and myself and the DG, we've been inundated with very willing partners who would say, can you send me the soft copy of your toolkit? We want to place it on all our products. So in our first stakeholder meeting, we had the people who deal with bread industry, you know, the ones that package Albany bread and things like that. They were so willing to then take our content onto their products. And like the DG was saying, we have partnerships, but moving into this other phase of the campaign, we're going to be able to leverage this money better and make sure that we widen our reach using the budget that we've now got. But we really do appreciate the affirmation and the work that we're doing. And honestly, honourable members, we do take the time to make sure that when we leave the portfolio committee, we take this message back to the coalface workers of GCIS to give them that sense of motivation as well. So I just wanted to add those 2 points in, that we do have that alignment and mobilization of stakeholders who are very much our partners. As we speak, by the way, just to conclude, honourable members, our Deputy Minister, Ms. Siweya, has begun a process. Last week, we had the first one with the foundations of various struggle stalwarts. Later this week, we're having another one with players in the media industry, where our DEM is spearheading stakeholder sessions to see how we can leverage partnerships with our stakeholders even better, to take some of the work that Kusela presented even further. So thank you, Honourable Chair and members and Minister. I just wanted to add that, Sis Pumla.
Michael. Thank you. We're done, Chair. Minister. Over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair and colleagues. I think all of us, the biggest challenge that is not only faced by us as a country, it's a global challenge. How do we effect behavioral change to an extent that people by themselves wear masks voluntarily, that the populace by itself is able to social distance without being policed anywhere they are, in their homes, in their places of work, but also they are able to regularly observe other health protocols like washing of hands. How do we give effect to this behavioral change? So that is one area that we should all be speaking to wherever we are, for all of us to wear our mask regularly in public places, to social distance, to regularly wash our hands, so that this message with time ends up being the norm in us leading and living our lives. So that's the first thing I wanted to speak to, Chair. And if also Parliament can also play its part in relation to this messaging in all areas we are in. The other area that I wanted to speak to, Chair, is you are correct, Mem Faku. The President is leading the campaign to combat the spread of COVID-19, of course, assisted by the entirety of Cabinet. That's why the Cabinet has now created a structure, a special Cabinet committee called the National Coronavirus Council that reports directly to Cabinet and is also led by the President. It also shows how serious we are as Cabinet, led by the President, how serious we are in saving lives of our people from this very deadly pandemic, but also saving livelihoods. As other colleagues have said, the various interventions government has made in the social sphere, in the economic sphere, so that again we are able to balance the lockdowns that we have called upon to save lives of our people, and also at the same time ensure that our people do not go without any livelihoods, any food on the table. So it's a very delicate balance that the President always speaks to, but it's something that we have to do. The other colleague, Mem Kubega, has asked a question. I'm speaking of an acting DDG, and yet we have said we would like to remove the Hollywood phenomenon in all our departments. You are right, Mem Kubega. We have now appointed the DG, as we have said, and that would have been a starting point in any department. After, am I audible, Chair?
You are audible, Minister. We can hear you. It's just that there's some background that came through, but you are audible.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, after we have appointed the DG as we have done in GCIS, the next phase is now to advertise and appoint the DDGs. We are on course to advertise and do those appointments. We could not have done so. We needed first to do the DG. In any department, you need the head, so that when you then go to the other lower levels, the administrative head is there to assist you in getting the other levels filled in. We therefore appreciate your concern, but rest assured that your concern is being taken care of. We also would like to appreciate what Honourable Member Majosi has said, what Honourable Member Gumbi has said, and indeed all other members, Honourable Van Dam, Honourable Mackenzie, Honourable Fago, Honourable Kubeka. You know, if there is one thing that we will appeal for, is in the work we have to do, and we don't know for how long this pandemic is going to be with us. Therefore, it means that GCIS will still be tasked with the responsibility of creating awareness and educating our people out there on the disease, on what will be the best methodology and ways of combating the spread of the disease. It's a mandate that we carry for the whole of government. And as Kusala has said, out of the 60 million we received, we now are left with about 20 odd million or so, or less than 20 million. Therefore, we need more money, particularly as we go to these levels now, where we must emphasize behavioral change, urge our people to do all these things that are non-pharmaceutical in combating the spread of the disease. We need to be out there. We need to impress on behavioral change. And as all of us will know, any campaign that speaks to behavioral change will not get to be happening, or will not hit the mark within a few days or within a few weeks. It will take time before people change their behavior to what is needed to combat COVID-19. And this message of behavioral change will need to be flooded in all our media platforms, in all our non-traditional media platforms, your loudhailers, and other areas, as I've said, your drones, and including through the President's national address and through the address by our ministers. But in the main, the messaging remains with GCIS to combat the spread of the disease. We really appreciate if colleagues, in whatever they do, assist us in getting some more financing for the messaging campaign to combat this very deadly disease. And again, we would like to say to colleagues, we know that there are quite a number of colleagues, even in Parliament, who are facing this disease and who have contracted this disease. We have got many also colleagues in the administration who are also facing this disease. Some have also lost their lives to this disease. We are asking Parliament and you colleagues that we should not forget the support that all those that are going through this disease need from all of us. They don't need to be isolated. They don't need any stigmatization. All they need is support, because, by the way, this disease, as we have said before, does not discriminate. It doesn't care whether you're a member of parliament, whether you are a business person, whether you're a millionaire or you're a person who lives in a shack, you are white, black, or green. All that we can assist with as South Africans, particularly South Africans of standing like yourselves who have been elected by millions of our people to serve us in parliament, is how do we give support to those who are infected and affected, including those who have lost their loved ones. We can't do this through GCIS, but maybe if we get more financing, we can also include that in our messaging. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister and the team. May I just check, honorable members, if there are those members who still want to make comments or ask questions? I see Honorable Van Dam, your hand is up. Honorable Machozi.
Chair.
Honorable Fagu. Is it Chair. Honorable Pambo?
Yes, Chair.
Is it Honorable Pambo?
Yes, Chair.
Okay, I've noted you. Can we get in that Honorable Van Dam?
Thanks, Chair. Just a unrelated but related topic. So the SABC often comes, and I think it has been for years, talking about the unfunded mandates and how much that costs them. So that would include events of national importance, and indeed when the president needs to address the nation, as he has been doing over the last while. Now, I understand that the SABC is the public broadcaster and they have this duty to broadcast this. And we need to, and I think GCIS also needs to, as a committee, start considering how it is, as part of the conversation we're supposed to be having about the SABC's funding model, how it is that the unfunded mandates is covered. So we need to look at, for example, money being set aside specifically for this. So for instances when the president has to address the nation. Now, I know it's not something that you would have included in this budget cycle, but it is a more long-term conversation we need to have. So it's not really a question, more as a comment, in that for the next budget cycle, please consider how it is the SABC's unfunded mandate is going to be funded, because every year we complain that the SABC is not breaking even, they come for bailouts, but I think we also need to meet them halfway, and some thought needs to be applied to how it is the unfunded mandate, as they call it, is budgeted for. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you, Honorable Fanda. Honorable Machozi.
Thank you, Chair. No, mine is simple. I just wanted to ask one question, that how is GCIS helping the SABC in terms of, since they are taking up space in the programming, when ministers have to convey regulations and messages to South Africans, are they helping them in terms of maybe paying for the space that they are using, or what? It's something that will be similar to what Honorable Van Dam would have said, but in different ways. That how is there a certain budget that is given to the SABC? Because I think at the end of the day, yes, we are faced with the pandemic, but we don't need to cripple our entities that are surviving at the present moment. So I just wanted to check that, Chairperson, how is the GCIS helping in terms of maybe is there any money that is given to the SABC so that they're able to run other programs? Thanks.
Honorable Fagu, I'm sure Honorable Minister, you hear that question is coming back of the SAB.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I just want to also add on what the two previous speakers spoke about, because if we remember in our last committee, the Deputy Minister Kekana said that the 140 million was a joint application by GCIS and SABC. So I think Minister is confusing it. I don't know if he responded it to the way that I understood the Deputy Minister responded it. If not, I think, Chair, we need to have further clarity from the department, because we need to understand really what happened for oversight. As we know that SABC is currently in a process of retrenching and all of that. If they need to make money of what they are doing, they need to do so. And we need to understand that what Honorable Van Dam was raising, it's very important. So I think it's important, Chair, that we get clarity on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Faku. Honorable Pambo. Honorable Pambo.
You, Chair. Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes, we can hear you, even though we don't see you. But
Chair,
we can
I think
hear you.
hearing me is more important, Chair, especially because my line is extremely bad, and I think it's much better if I
we can hear
focus
you
on the audio. Yes.
Yes.
No, Chair, ours is simply to go back to the messaging and to simply just caution to say that, in the beginning of the lockdown, when the sanitizers were being distributed, they had, so they had messaging on it, which was a good initiative, but it was spoiled by opportunism and political careerists who are premiers, who simply put their faces on those sanitizers. So although we agree that, we ought to always, push the message and, conscientize society about COVID-19, we must not fall into the trap of, either using party, the ANC would put in, its logo on those items. The other option is to also make sure that, as you give these parcels, in those parcels, there's pamphlets. You put in pamphlets wherein you explain, you conscientize. But we're just simply saying, look, it's a good idea, but it should not have, it must not be partisan. That would be our observation and our caution in that regard, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Pambo. Honorable Kubeka, just want to speak.
No, Chair, I think Honorable Faku has covered me to clarify that 140 million, Chair.
Okay.
Thanks.
No, thanks. We'll now give to the Minister and the team so that we then wrap up on this briefing by GCIS and move to the next item. Honorable Minister. Just unmute. Yes, okay, thank you.
Honorable Chair, maybe in one sentence, we agree with colleagues that all of us as government needs to see and craft a working funding model for what we call a public broadcaster. And we are in full agreement. Now, for now, because there is a belief that the SABC is a public broadcaster, on some of the important messages to the nation, there is basically no assistance to the public broadcaster because it is sticking to its mandate as a public broadcaster. But of course, we all know the difficulties that the SABC is in. Again, in the main, arising from the fact that we have not funded this public broadcaster as much as we should have done. So we therefore agree. It will speak to the issue that has been raised by Honorable Van Dam, Honorable Majoz, and even Honorable Faku. The Honorable Faku raises an issue of 140 million. By the way, the GCIS has got its own budget. It has got its own allocation. Similarly, SABC has got its own allocation and budget from a sister department, as we all know. The sister department will be speaking to you now. But having said all that, we have not funded the public broadcaster as we should. And it's something that all of us should put our heads around. We should find a better mechanism of funding this public broadcaster. If we don't find a mechanism, we might not have a public broadcaster. Yes, the difficulties have now started, where indeed all of us are aware that a number of workers are about to be retrenched. There are all sorts of programming issues as well. So there is no way that we can allow this type of situation to engulf all of us and sacrifice what we have done so well in building a public broadcaster. We can't then, in our lifetime, allow what we have built over years to be destroyed by lack of funding. We agree with colleagues that between us as government, led by Minister Ndabeni Abrams, indeed we should pay attention to this. Pambo, Honourable Member Pambo, I can assure you that from the side of the governing party, anybody who uses this environment we are in for personal or political gain, that is something that is not sanctioned by the government. But I want to assure you, any people who putting up pamphlets or sanitizers and have their names or faces appearing in those pamphlets or sanitizers, those people are doing so not sanctioned in my view. And I'm also speaking in my capacity as a leader in the governing party. We basically frown to see such tendencies. And again, if you have seen such activities, Pambo, please alert us so that we put an immediate stop to them and also sanction, even at a party level, those that might be engaging in such unwarranted schemes. That's all that we can say, but I'm not aware of people putting faces on sanitizers and also pamphlets in food parcels that are party political. We will not agree to such. I mean, how do we, when we're faced with such a pandemic, play a political game? This pandemic needs all of us to work together, immaterial from which political party we are, by the way. People who are infected and people who need the support of parliament, people who need the support of government, are people drawn from all over political persuasions, are people drawn from all stakeholders in our country, are people basically who have forgotten which political party they belong to, because at the moment, the biggest challenge that all of us are faced with and the biggest challenge that their families are faced with is dealing with the pandemic. So we can't make this political. We refuse to make this political. Any people who want to make this political are doing so, if they are there, not sanctioned, I can assure you, by any political party, not least the political party that I come from. Therefore, we agree with you. If there is such, please alert us so that we can act on any people who are using this pandemic to glorify their own names or their own stations in life. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Chair.
Is that Honorable Pambo?
No, Chair, let me acknowledge the Minister's response. and say that we will take him up on the challenge because it's something that is, you know, a common cause. It has already happened, and so we will fashion you with the necessary material. We, as the EFF, have already raised it, and we even took out a statement on it to say that there are premiers in Mpumalanga, for example, who, you know, had their own campaign using the distribution of sanitizers. So we will do that. We will fashion you with the necessary information. It's common cause. It's in the public domain. Thank you.
We'll appreciate that.
Thank you, Honorable Pambo. Honorable Minister, members, I think we have really engaged the item before us, and we've now moved towards closure on the item so that we are able to take the next item. I'm sure the Minister and the team, you are living with a sense here that there's appreciation, and we do welcome the adjustment that would have been made as the portfolio committee. And the fact that you are delivering, but also ensuring that good governance in the process is not compromised. I think that's the assurance the DG no longer acting now. So she acted for some time and was green. So on a lighter note, it can't be an act. It is actually what characterizes her in that space, that she delivers green, which is clean audit. That will still have this beyond COVID. I think it's an important message to send, that even in situations like this, you do not compromise on what is right, that you are able to deliver, but at the same time show that good governance principles are not thrown out of the window because there's COVID. I think that's an important reassurance message that we got from yourselves. But I do take it that you also heard that the committee welcomes other approaches to ensuring that you communicate further to our people, especially the congested areas and your informal settlements, especially because leaders in those spaces, a number of them, may not be able to access people in the traditional way of meetings and so on, given the regulations, and that maybe this approach will also afford them an opportunity to work with yourselves to communicate also directly to the people as a way of reinforcing the message over and above law enforcers that must come into a space. Sometimes people listen more to the leaders that are closer to them, that they are also enforcing the message. So that's important. I think on the part of the funding model, I think we agree with you that there must be a way of looking at the public broadcaster. However, the issue raised about the joint application, 140 million, is merely from a point of the oversight we need to play. So that if that relief fund was not applied for, I think the department will then clarify in the next item whether that has happened or not, so that we don't belabor on a point that doesn't exist necessarily. Maybe it's just confusion that may have been there, or it is something that is planned to be done. At least will be clarified on that. But the model of the funding, I think the minister got it well, that it's something to look at so that the national broadcaster is better positioned to deliver a message to our people. Otherwise, the part about the MDDA, indeed we are interested in the way community radio stations and community print media is supported in this regard. However, I must also appreciate, even from my side as the chair, that this thinking of working with Centec to directly engage radio station, I think it's very important, because Centec is also a state-owned entity, which must play a role. So cutting the third party and going through the state itself, cutting costs, but also reinforcing the purpose of having Centec there. I think we really appreciate that part. So MDDA will still have to come so that we do understand where things are. We do appreciate what the acting DDG would have raised, that some of the community radio stations are not compliant and so on, but we would still want to be sure that, at least in the context of a district development model, that at least in each district, no matter how many community radio stations are there, do we have a sense that at least at a regional level, there's always been coverage for the message to reach the people there on the ground. Otherwise, we are really very happy, Minister. The presentation was very helpful. We now know what you do. We have appreciated it at that time. We'll still appreciate going forward. Thank you for coming to the committee and present. Yes, we will not hold you hostage by staying with us if you don't want to. We'll release you to do the work, because we know when you are released, it's not like you are not doing work. You are released to do work elsewhere. But we really appreciate Minister and the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Can we now get to the next item? The department, if you can load the presentation as we allow us to leave. I will leave the meeting so that we do not disturb you there. Leave the meeting. Don't mute. Leave the meeting. so that we don't see you again. Leave the meeting. Thank you. Can we get the department to load the presentation of the last item? If I can get an indication if the minister is there, because I'm trying to check on the system, or whether this is just led from the official side. If you can just indicate that so that we acknowledge the minister. Ajira?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to check. I can't see on the system yet. Yes.
Chairperson, there was a call that from the minister's office. I think she will join. Let me just call. I'll get back to you.
Okay, but in the meantime, can we probably have the presentation?
Ms. Batye will make the presentation.
Okay, so once the minister is logged in, we'll still give the minister the opportunity to clarify whatever method to be clarified, if honorable members agree, so that we at least proceed in the meantime. Ms. Baji.
Chairperson, honorable members, good evening. We are trying to upload the presentation, so we've asked Hajira that she must upload from her side. Just as an apology from our side, we've been having email issues since last week, Friday, from the side of DCDT. CETA is currently addressing this issue from our side, so I hope Hajira will be able to upload the presentation. Because
I'll try to assist, Chair. I'll try to assist. I'm just going to retrieve it.
Thank you.
Maybe you can, the minister will probably add if she joins the meeting before we complete. The 140 relief fund.
Chair, the 140 relief fund, remember from our side, as DM said, from our side, we only received the application for the 1.5 billion. isn't it? And the 1.5 billion which was taken forward to National Treasury. As far as we understood the 140 from the explanation that was given to us was that that's not us. So it's almost like an advertising package or response that SABC had proposed to GCIS. So we do not interfere on the. That's not our presentation. That's not the presentation. Mr. Lambo, can you please send to committee?
I don't know what happened. I'm trying to find it. I don't know what's going on. This just popped up. I don't know where it comes from. One second.
Okay. All right. So, Chair, that is what we know. From our side, we only know the 1.5.
Us to unshare this document that we don't know where it comes from, because this is for Transport Committee, not us.
Minister, fear nothing. He's hijacked our meeting, Chair.
No, please, IT, please help us to.
Cabinet reshuffle. Is this our new minister?
No, there's no reshuffle, Van Dam. This is communications, transport. There's just.
Actually, you must just tell us if the Minister Mbalula is now our minister.
That's not our presentation. So the presentation is up there. Ms. Pachi, you can continue.
All right. Thank you, Chair, honorable members. Just as you've actually given us the leeway that I can proceed from our side. We received the request that we must come and present on the ICASA's councillors and chairpersons remuneration as the department. We understand that we have seen the letter that the president addressed the letter to the House and the House to deal with issues around ICASA remuneration. Next slide, please. So you would see on the slide here, we're just saying that as a start, ICASA councillors' salary were determined by the then minister in 2008, and that the chairperson and the councillors of ICASA are currently remunerated at Director General for the chairperson and Deputy Director Generals for the councillors. So these salaries have been like this, and they are adjusted automatically. They have been adjusted automatically in line with SMS in the public service on an annual basis. Councillors of ICASA have previously, we just need the committee to be aware, have previously made submissions to various ministers in terms of seeking an adjustment of their salaries in order to move up a notch. And these were not approved because since the ICASA Act was amended, there has never been a performance agreement being entered into by ICASA councillors. Even after there was the performance management system that was approved by the House at the time. So this, as you would see, it's actually that we're just saying that this is where we are. Next slide, please. Just on the legal requirement, you would note that it's Section 10 of the ICASA Act that as of April 2019, we have a minister actually has been consulted by the Commission on Remuneration of Public Office Bearers as to how ICASA councillors should be remunerated. So as part of that consultation, they asked for certain information such as what was the determination of the salary in 2008. So we had to go and dig files and check what was happening at that time. What is the financial position of ICASA as things currently stand? What is the performance of the organization at ICASA? So that was done. So when these are the things that also currently we have seen with the president's letter that he's actually taking into account the current financial position that we're facing as a country, the economic challenges that we have. Then at the ICASA level, you would have seen that ICASA's financial position is dire. You would recall at this August committee that ICASA, the department, had to transfer funds to the tune of over 30 million last year, just to assist ICASA on the licensing of the spectrum on high demand. So that is where we are. Next slide, please. Yes, so here we're just reminding the committee that the department did, through the minister, has commenced with the review of the performance management system of ICASA, and that is the purpose of the performance management system of ICASA. It's actually very critical, especially at this point, that boards and other bodies actually enter into performance management systems, and we understand agreements. And we would have seen that ICASA, as one of their findings, is that ICASA councillors from the AG had failed to enter into a performance agreement. Then the next one slide is just the end. Yes. So in line with the letter, you would have seen that there's various levels as to which office bearers will qualify for an increase. So because the ICASA chairperson and other councillors earn above 1.5 million per annum, the president's determination and remuneration for those that earn above 1.5 million actually will not be getting any salary increases. So as a result, this is the salary freeze of 0% for the chairpersons, for the chairperson and ICASA councillors for this financial year. So chairperson, for those reasons that have been advanced, even from our side, the financial position of ICASA, the financial position of the country, and we find ourselves with everything that has happened around COVID. This is what has been recommended to the president, and what the president has determined is actually. So with that, Chairperson and the honourable members, I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bachi. Honourable members, that's the brief presentation in response to the letter from the President. May I just check those members who would want to make comments or speak on the matter? Honourable Faku, Honourable Van Dam, Honourable Majosi, I don't want to leave you behind if you want to speak, because
Honourable, no.
Yes,
Before
I
that, Chair, I
understand
wanted you to elaborate
also
more, because I got cut off. My network is not. I didn't hear the letter that came from the president, what it said.
Yes, that's about the remuneration part on the increases. That's the presentation then talks to that, which is the letter we circulated to members. So I just wanted to check if you have wanted to speak on the matter, so that I don't leave your hand. Okay.
Yes,
for now.
Chair.
Okay. So Honourable Van Dam, Honourable Majosi, then Honourable Kubeka would follow in that order. Honourable Mackenzie, am I leaving your hand? I don't see that those are the names we have for now.
Just for a change, Chairperson, thank you.
Right, Honourable Mackenzie. Honourable Faku.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you for the presentation. I think, Chair, let us welcome the presentation and also support the President's determination of 0% increase. I think I support that move. Our country is going under difficult times, and we hope that everyone will understand that it is increment must be accepted. I think we welcome the report. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Van Dam.
Thanks, Chair. There's another matter I am very concerned about.
I can't hear you, or is it me? Because your screen's also frozen.
No, I
Your
can't
screen
hear
is also frozen. Your screen is also frozen. I can't hear you.
Sabotage.
There's no network in Cape Town.
It can be sabotage. From where?
I withdraw that, Chair. It's the weather in Cape Town. Must be the wind.
Okay. We'll skip Honorable Van Dam. In the meantime, go to Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Firstly, let us appreciate the presentation and also acknowledge that now we are dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19, and I would support that there will be no increment in that cost. Maybe we can then speak about it when we are done with the pandemic, and also that to also acknowledge the fact that the department had got a reduction of 111 million. So we can't speak of any increment right now while we are still focusing with the pandemic. So I fully support the presentation. Thanks.
Honorable Kubeka, I surrender.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think as we are fully much aware, all of us, with my other colleagues, as they are raising to say, as we are under this siege of this pandemic, indeed, we can't say so much. We need just to accept the presentation from the department as they are presented with the 0% increase. But before I can say further than that, can I just get a clarity on the side of the department to say at the moment now, the issue of the PMS, is it done? Is it finalized? In order that when this new team is going to start, and then we might not find again some challenges there and there. Is it done, the issue of the performance management system framework, or what are they saying? But we are fully supported the president, because indeed we can't expect to say other people they will get so much whilst we are under this challenge of this pandemic. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kubeka. Honorable Van Dam.
Thanks, Chair. So
you are connected now, and that you can speak. Over to you. Honorable Van Dam. Honorable Van Dam. Honorable Van Dam.
Hello.
Honorable Van Dam. Yeah, I think you have connection challenges on your side. I think we would then leave Honorable Van Dam so that we have responses in the meantime. Surely should be able to get back before we close, because after that we'll be closing the meeting. Or else if we close before she comes back and she believes that she still needed to ask further questions, she would put that in writing to the department. Can we hand over to the department?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was going to suggest with maybe Honorable Van Dam must switch off her camera, then she will be audible, because sometimes the latency of the connection is affected by the camera. Just a suggestion, Chair. So
yes, as I say, once she connects back, would be able to assist. But in the meantime, proceed to respond. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I must say on behalf of the department, we thank the honorable members, because we understand from here that the honorable members actually are in support of the determination as made by the president, and to this end, what then is required is for the committee to action such. That is one. The second issue that was raised is insofar as the performance management system. Chair, here we will be guided by the committee. Chair, you may recall that last year, led by the DM, we did table the performance management system. However, there was an issue of legal interpretation. And then you would say when we must come again, based on the legal interpretation that would have been received. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Van Dam, are you back? Honorable Van Dam, are you back?
Chair?
Honorable Van Dam? Honorable Van Dam? You are unmuted, but we can't hear you. So we can't hear Honorable Van Dam. I think there's a sense that
Stian, are you connected?
We can hear you now.
Chair.
Yeah, just switch off the camera. It's fine. Let's see what happens.
There we go. No, it's perfect.
Yeah, can we hear you? Speak so that we can hear you. Honorable Van Dam. Okay, so we can hear. We will then proceed. As I said, if you can't connect, we will still allow you to send your questions to the department. But there's a sense that there's agreement by members with the department. Maybe just clarify this point, Ms. Bachi, so that in future we do not get to find ourselves in problems. From the laws that you've quoted, there's really no role of the committee in the determination of what gets. So in essence, we would be supporting what the minister would submit to the president as a response, which is 0% increase. I think it's important to clarify that point so that we are clear on what our role is in this instance. As I say, based on what you've put there as the, so that tomorrow we don't find ourselves to be seen to be entering in a space that is that of the minister as the committee. Yes, we can support the minister, but the letter from the president necessarily would have been a referral to yourselves than a referral to a committee that doesn't make such a determination. So I want you to also respond to that so that the recommendation is crafted properly. Ms. Baji.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the screen is black. I cannot see anyone, but it's fine. I will continue from my side. Chair.
Yes, we can see you well.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Chair. Chair, as of there is the Independent Commission for the Remuneration of Public Office Bearers, which as of last year, because this law has been around since 1997. So as of last year, then certain parts of it became fully operational. So this commission is the one that is actually tasked now, because it says the section in the CASA Act said subject to the section in the Constitution. So now this is operational. That commission then is the one that consults with the respective, correctly so you're saying, consults with the respective minister, consulted with the CASA councillors, checked the budgets that were applicable. You would have seen in the president's determination, actually the commission recommended a 3% increment, right? However, then the president then makes the determination in the final end and says, I have, based on the reasons that he advances in the letter, makes the determination that people that are earning above this 1.5 will get 0%. So now then it gets tabled then and approved by yourselves in the National Assembly. That is what is the new applicable ICASA legislation, because that ICASA legislation was on hold up until last year, up until this commission, remuneration commission on for the remuneration of public office bearers. So then as the committee, then you'll have to follow the process of approving the determination so made by the president. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Baji. I'm sure now we have clarity because the committee before tried to check with the reports has never dealt with such a referral. But you've now clarified that the effectiveness of the amendments made only took effect in April last year. I think also our people who give advice should be able to follow this up. Otherwise, we are in agreement to the 0% salary increase, informed by the financial situation in that scope. With regard to the performance management system for ICASA councillors, indeed would want that to come back to the committee. I'm sure our support staff is listening, including content advisors, that legal opinion on whether you can have participation from Parliament side in terms of the panel of experts, because I think that's where there was some differences amongst ourselves on what needs to happen. That is clarified, so that at least the new councillors of ICASA, as they come in, start on a better footing where there's performance agreements that could be signed as expected in law. So if you can keep to that, that would be fine. Honourable members, I take it that will take us to the end of the meeting for this evening. It's unless I've left anything that should have been dealt with. Ajira.
Chairperson, I think we should craft a report and place it on the agenda on our next item to adopt a report in terms of this.
Okay. All right. So in the program that we have, there will be a time for the adoption of the reports. We'll do that. So in that score, honourable members, I must thank you once again. You have discharged your duty very well. if we can keep it this way, this committee should be able to move to new heights, and that those that we pay oversight on would at least have understanding that we are really trying to make sure that we deliver on the mandate. Honorable Van Dam, we welcome you back as we close the meeting. We have
No,
made...
you can't close yet.
No.
Order, Chair. Order, Chair.
Van Dam, please.
To submit
No.
items. So you will submit the questions we have in writing. So we really tried, but we could not persuade the Western Cape to really help you with the connection there. So you will just face what Limpopo faced. You know, now you see you are gone again, you know.
Yeah, bye-bye.
So in that score, thank you, honorable members. The meeting stays adjourned.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.
You must write, Pumzile. Said
No, Pumzile, you will have an opportunity.
From asking questions. Your ANC members are shouting me down.
No, it's not the members. You see, this is the sabotage Mackenzie talked about, which I corrected that there's no sabotage. It's just that the connection was a problem.
These things happen. We have got until 9 p.m. for this.
Good night, if I
Can you hear her? It's 20 to 9. So if I still have questions, I should be able to ask them.
She's right.
You can write.
Can you tell Honorable Faki to stop yelling like that when she's irritating? I'm speaking to you.
The meeting is at.
The meeting
now, Efako, please.
Honorable Van Dam, I've created a provision for you to submit your questions.
Chair, these things happen. No, I do not want to submit them in writing. I want to ask them. The meeting was until 9 p.m.
Yes, if for us to conclude the business of the meeting, but when the meeting is concluded, it's business. It's not an issue that left you outside.
You did leave me outside. How do I know? Suddenly, when there's a hot topic, my connection cuts when it was fine all along. Can I ask my question?
So now you are now bringing the conspiracy theory of sabotage again. Now, you know, that can't be right. And this meeting has adjourned. You'll send your question in writing. Thanks.
No, Chair, no. I'm not satisfied with that. Just to put it on record, I'm not satisfied, but you can close it. I'm not satisfied with that. Because I have an important question I'd like to ask. If you don't want to have in the meeting, can I please speak to G then?
As I said, you can submit it to us, it's fine.
No, I'd like to ask it here, Chair. It's important.
No, remember the meeting, we've closed it for, but if you want to talk to her, you can talk to her after that. It's fine.
It's okay, you can go then. If she's on the line, I'll speak to her.
I'd also like to hear it, if you don't mind.
So, Chairperson, I would like to ask, the ICASA Council is currently not correct. Has there been any communication from the minister about this?
I'm not sure if the minister has joined the meeting.
No, I'm asking yourself, Chair. Has there been any communication? Because she must get back to us as a committee to let us know whether she's going to be, what her names are. Because we send the list to her, then she chooses, and then she comes back to us.
Chairperson, we received an apology from the minister.
Thanks, Hajira. I'm asking the chairperson though.
Okay. You see, you can understand because you are asking outside the meeting. So let me answer you outside the meeting.
No, Chair, please answer me here. We're talking.
No, that's what I'm saying. The meeting is closed on the matter that we're dealing with. It was the remuneration of
Why don't you
ICASA.
answer the question, Chair? But we don't answer it to make me suspicious. Just answer.
No. I'm saying the item we're dealing with, we finalized on it, which was on ICASA councillors, the remuneration of ICASA councillors, the increase. Agreed? That was the item. So you are asking outside of the meeting. The minister was going to answer the question on whether she has recommended the names that she needed to recommend. All I know is that once we have communication formally to us referred to the committee after it has been sent to the National Assembly Speaker, I'm going to be ensuring that we have an urgent meeting, whether it is at the time we deal with SABC matters or not, to deal with such an item. So at this point in time, we should leave it as such so that it doesn't have to be answered by Ms. Bachi, who came prepared only for the item that we had. But it's also important in the way we handle matters. I'm sure you got cut. The question we're asking about whether the committee has a role to play on a particular matter speaks actually to that, so that we know what's the role that the minister plays and the role that we play as a committee. So once that referral is with us, Honorable Van Dam, I can guarantee you that we are pushing to know about it, because we are also aware that come next week, even that fourth one, if you remember, the one who was serving the notice, would also be out, leaving 3 members of the cast.
So just an important point. As it stands, the ICASA Council is not correct. So, which means all the decisions they're making are not legally binding, which is a serious, serious matter.
As I said, let's not deal with it now. Let's deal with it when the item is before us, so that we're also advised on the legalities. Remember, the same council appeared before us on an item that we're dealing with.
No, I'm not satisfied with that, but I will be speaking to you offline. If the ICASA Council is not correct, and ICASA plays an important role at this time, and it is not correct, we need to be seized with that, because it means all the decisions they've made since they've become incorrect are not legally binding and can be challenged in court. But we will talk about it, just so we can have clarity about that. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you. But as I said, the meeting was long closed anyway on the items we're dealing with.
Chair, before you leave, can I show you my cup? But it's not EFF, it's something else.
No, but it's an EFF cup, and then Pambo, I'm not sure you will be happy with that, because it's crying about adverts that are political.
I promise you, Chair, not EFF. I'm hiding it.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. Cold.